Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Now my group will present about two important figures in the philosophy of naturalism, starting with Emile Zola, or commonly referred to as the father of naturalism. So, Emile Zola, or Emile Edward Charles Antoine Zola, was a French novelist, journalist, playwright, and poet. Um, Famously known for his advocacy of the philosophy of naturalism, mainly through his literature work, which is mainly his plays and novels. So, in his early life, he was born in Paris to an Italian immigrant father and a French mother. His father died when he was 9 years old. So, Emile Zola has failed his university entrance exam twice, and then in his early life, he's lived a life as a poverty-stricken poet, which in this life he has learned and experienced poverty a lot. A turning point in his life is when he was hired as a clerk in 1862 at the publishing firm of LCF Hachette, where he was promoted to the advertising department later on. So then he began to write articles on subjects of his current interest for various periodicals as a way to supplement income. At the same time, he continued to write fiction, which is his childhood hobby. So his very first novel published was entitled Cloud's Confession, which is a sordid semi-autobiographical tale. So this novel drew controversy in public and was also disapproved by his employer. However, Zola felt that he has already established his reputation as a writer and left his job to pursue his literary interests. So here's some of his well-known novel and what and the themes they are trying to portray. So one of his most well-known work is the Le Rogue series, completed in 1893, which tells the story and the natural and social history of a family under the Second Empire of the Emperor Napoleon III's reign. So in this series, Zola tries to examine the impact of environment by varying the social, the economic, as well as the professional aspect in each novel. So his goal is to demonstrate the influence of heredity in determining the effect it has on the various members of the family in his novel. So here's the the Le Rogo series novels for your references. Zola was also infamous in 1989 when he intervened in the Dreyfus Affair, which is when a Jewish French army, Alfred Dreyfus, was wrongly accused for treason. So this affair has sparked a 12-year controversy that has deeply divided French society. So Zola at the beginning has decided rightly that Dreyfus was innocent. So on January 13, 1898, Zola has published a open letter beginning with the words "J'accuse" or "I accuse" as a denunciation of the French general staff. So this article has charged various high-ranking military officers and indeed the War Office itself, of concealing the truth in the wrongful accusation of Dreyfus for treason. As a result, Zola was prosecuted for libel and was found guilty. Hence, he fled to England in July 1899 and returned to France the following June in next year when he learned that the Dreyfus case was to be reopened with a possible reversal of the original verdict. Zola's intervention caused a controversy which helped to undermine anti-Semitism and rabid militarism in France, as well as divide the society at the same time. So Zola died when he was found when he experienced asphyxiation, which is the inability to breathe. So in short, that night in his home, Zola has closed all the windows and locked the door. So and he lit a smokeless coal fire in his bedroom. So his wife and him slept together. So they woke up around 3 a.m. feeling very ill. So his wife wanted to call the servants for help, but Zola dismisses it as he does not want to disturb them and only views it as a trivial matter. However, soon his wife was unable to move, and Zola tries to go out of bed to open the window to let the air in, which he fell to the floor and his wife was paralyzed. So the door was forced open by the servants when neither had appeared by 9 a.m. But by then, Zola was already dead. His wife survived, and the word of his death spread all over France. So the police investigation found nothing wrong, and ultimately the death was put down to an accident. However, there are some um, theories, conspiracies that view this as an assault by the Dreyfus Affair supporters who wanted Zola dead. So Zola, as I mentioned earlier, was a proponent of naturalism. So he was influenced by Charles Darwin's theory of evolution as well as other scientific theories. He views science as the only way to, establish the truth. So the naturalist saw his view. The naturalist saw humanity as trapped by forces which it cannot control. So in short, humanity is viewed as an image trapped in some sort of cage. So most often, the dominant image is that a person is viewed as some sort of animal which is unable to control their urges, and over time will ultimately be reduced to their primal desires. Zola, being an author, being a writer, state views that the ultimate aim of the novelist is to be true to his subject matter and to present some basic truths about life. So Zola tries to implement the philosophy of naturalism in his writing. How? Zola tries to present a picture of life that is as accurate as possible in his literary works. Zola viewed that literature was a medium, was just a medium to test out scientific experimentation. So, for example, Zola, in his plays, viewed his plays as a social experiment where he can manipulate the settings, the social settings, the economical settings, and such to um, to affect the outcomes of the play. So Zola then, many of his novels have a social idea which is presented with scientific objectivity. So only by to Zola, according to Zola, only by giving the reader an accurate rendition of life will the artist be absolutely faithful to life. So his main view is that literature should not be romanticized, should not be sugar-coated in utopia, but instead should be presented. The story should be presented in a realistic way. So the characters are given trials and tribulations that tries to portray life as accurate as possible in the stories. So any other form of writing, according to Zola, would distort life, and the novelist then cannot serve a useful purpose in his society. So when the artist presents his subject faithfully, then for Zola, the character would be shown as a product of his environment and of his heredity. So that is how Emile Zola tries to implement the philosophy of naturalism in his literary works. So I think that is all for me. Here is a reference if you want to refer more, um, and there's also the slide in the Padlet. So now I pass it to Amirul Azizi for the next figure. So thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Amirul Azizi bin Mohamad Khairul Amri, metric number 2012349, and I'm from Group 1. For today, I want to present about Naturalism Part 1. As we can see in my slide, I take David Hume as an example, who is a Scottish philosopher. David Hume early life and education. He born on 26 April 1711, Edinburgh. It is a capital of Scotland. He was second of two sons to Joseph Home of Chenside in the county of Berwick, and advocate of Nine Wells. And he had a wife named Catherine Home. In his early study, Home went to Edinburgh University, although he was only 10 or 11. There, he studied Latin and Greek, read widely in history and literature, ancient and modern philosophy, and also did some mathematics and natural philosophy, what we call now natural science. The education aimed at training people to live a life of virtue regulated by stern Scottish Calvinist strictures. Prayers and sermons were prominent aspects of his home and university life. While in his study, He found out that law is somehow nauseous and decided to become a scholar and philosopher, and follow a rigorous program of reading and reflection for 3 years, until there seemed to be opened up to me a new scene of thought. So this is about his death. He died from a form of abdominal cancer, and before he died, he asked that his body be interred in a simple Roman tomb, because it will inscribe only with his name and the year of his birth and death, leaving it to posterity to add the rest. And he died at the southwest corner of St Andrew's Square in Edinburgh, New Town. Next is about disease of the land. So, what is disease of the land? At age 18 or so, Hume made a philosophical discovery that opened him up to a new scene of thought. Hume, and then he set out to spend a minimum 10 years of reading and writing. Then he came to the verge of a mental breakdown, which first starting with a coldness, which he attributed to a laziness of temper, and whom physician diagnosed Hume as suffering from the disease of the land. So, why is David Hume related to naturalism? It is because Hume takes his naturalistic study of human nature to show that certain general principles of the imagination can explain how human beings come to think, feel, and believe, and act in all the ways they do, independently of the truth or reasonableness of those responses. This relief from this unacceptably extreme skepticism is found in acknowledging and acquiescing in those forces of nature that inevitably overcome an apparent dictates of reason and return the philosopher to the responses and belief of everyday life. So I will show some example of his writings. There are three examples: a treatise of human nature, philosophy of religion, and moral philosophy. So this is an example, one of his works named titled A Treatise of Human Nature. Hume's subject is human nature, so he summarized his project in his subtitle, an attempt to introduce the experimental method in moral subjects. In his day, moral meant everything concerned with human nature, not just ethics, as he makes clear at the beginning of the first inquiry, where he defines moral philosophy as the science of human nature. Hume's aim is to bring the scientific method to bear on the study of human nature, and he is proposing an empiricist alternative to traditional a priori metaphysics. And people found out that his empirism is naturalistic, in that it refuses to countenance any appeal to the supernatural in explanation of human nature. So, as a naturalist, he aims to account for the way our minds work in a manner. So, this is all about this book. Next is about philosophy of religion. The book is titled Dialogues Concerning Natural Religion by David Hume. He wrote forcefully and incisively on almost every central question in the philosophy of religion, contributing to ongoing debates about the reliability of reports of miracles, the immateriality and immortality of the soul, the morality of society, and the natural history of religion, among others. And nowadays, his arguments still figure centrally in discussion. So people still use his argument to this day. And Hume's greatest achievement in the philosophy of religion is the dialogues dialogues concerning natural religion, regarded as one of most important and influential contributions to this area of philosophy. Uh, it is so great that uh, the dialogue were thought to be so inflammatory that his friend persuaded him to withhold them from publication until after his death. It meant that the book is only to be published after his death. So this is a quote for related to philosophy of religion. David Hume said that generally speaking, the errors in religion are dangerous, those in philosophy only ridiculous. And last but not least, uh, his work titled Moral Philosophy. It takes his primary task to be an investigation into the origin of basic moral ideas, which he assumes that the ideas of moral goodness and badness. As with the idea of cause and necessary connection, he wants to explain more ideas as economically as possible in terms of their simplest and fewest causes. Determining their causes will determine what their content is, what we mean by them. And his secondary concern is to establish what character traits and motives are morally good and bad. And in this work, he follows his sentimentalist predecessor Francis Hutcheson in building his moral theory around the idea of a spectator who approves or disapproves of people's character traits and motives. The sentiments of approval and disapproval are the source of our moral ideas of goodness and badness. So this is another example for uh, David Hume quotes related to moral philosophy. He said that morals excite actions and produce or prevent actions. Reason of itself is utterly important in this particular. The rules of morality, therefore, are not conclusions of our reason. So move on. This is some example for his bibliography. There are many works that he had done in his life. Those are some examples as we can see in the slide. And I think that's all from me. Thank you.